Waitress shared a meal with a homeless man. She never expected his true identity. Sophie pulled her scarf tighter as a sharp breeze swirled around her. It was a chilly fall evening in 2027. In the lively town of Harmonyville. Streetlights blinked on, casting warm golden pools across the sidewalks. Shop windows sparkled with displays of pumpkins and colorful leaves. Cars rolled by, their headlights slicing through the thin evening mist. Sophie's sneakers crunched on dry leaves scattered along the path. Her shoulders ached from lugging textbooks all day at the community college. All she could think about was a hot meal before a long night shift. Her life was a non-stop race, stretching from dawn to midnight. As a student, she wrestled with essays and tricky math problems. As a waitress, she blended into the background at the Bright Lantern Diner. The diner was charming, but its menu was way out of her budget. She spotted its neon sign glowing ahead, welcoming in the dusk. The Bright Lantern's windows were fogged up, hinting at warmth inside. To Sophie, it was just another stop in her exhausting daily grind. She pushed open the door, and a small bell jingled above. A wave of warmth hit her, smelling of fresh coffee and toasted bread. The diner buzzed, kids giggling, adults chatting over plates. Spoons clinked against bowls, mixing with bursts of laughter. Sophie slipped inside, her plain blue uniform barely noticed. She was invisible here, clearing tables and refilling water glasses. No one gave her a second glance as she wove through the crowd. She headed to the counter, where her coworker Emma stood. Emma was flipping through an old magazine. Barely looking up, she glanced at Sophie with a smirk. Late again, huh, Sophie? Sophie gave a small shrug. Too tired to argue. Emma's teasing was as familiar as the diner's specials. She ducked into the break area and sank into a chair. Her fingers dug into her pocket, pulling out a few crumpled bills. It wasn't much, maybe enough for a bowl of soup. Her stomach growled, reminding her she'd skipped lunch. She looked around, taking in the diner's lively chaos. Families shared baskets of fries, friends swapped old stories. Everything felt normal, just another busy night. Sophie had no idea how wrong she was about that. In just a few minutes, her whole world would shift. The diner's door swung open, letting in a cold gust. Napkins fluttered on tables, and a few customers shivered. A man stood in the doorway, his thin frame lit by the diner's glow. His coat was tattered, patched together with uneven stitches. His jeans were faded, stained from long, hard days. His shoes were worn out, the soles flapping loose. His face was weary, carved with deep lines like old scars. Gray hair spilled messily from under a frayed cap. His beard was scruffy, growing wild and uneven. But his eyes, they stopped Sophie in her tracks. They were heavy, lost, searching for something long gone. He took a step inside but hesitated, unsure. The diner's chatter dipped for a moment, then roared back. Some people frowned at him, their lips tightening. Others turned away, pretending he wasn't there. Emma scoffed from the counter. Great, trouble's here. The manager, Mrs. Clara, stood near the register, watching. Her arms were crossed, her face calm but alert. No one told the man to leave, but no one welcomed him either. He didn't beg or reach out for handouts. He just stood there, like he was lost in his own mind. Sophie's chest tightened, a feeling she couldn't name. There was something about him, something different. She didn't know what, but it tugged at her heart. She sensed this moment was about to matter. Sophie watched him, alone in the crowded diner. He looked small, out of place among the cheerful faces. His shoulders slumped, his hands stuffed in his torn pockets. A wave of sadness hit her, she couldn't stay still. She stood up, her chair scraping softly against the floor. A few heads turned, curious eyes following her. The air felt heavier, but no one spoke. She walked toward him, her steps steady yet gentle. She stopped in front of him and smiled. Hi, sir. He looked up, his eyes wide with surprise. Want to sit down for a bit? She asked. Her voice warm. He blinked, like kindness was something foreign. He nodded slowly, not saying a word. Sophie's smile grew. Come with me, okay? She led him to a small booth tucked in the corner. He moved carefully, like every step was uncertain. He sat down, his hands resting awkwardly on the table. Sophie spoke softly. Stay here, I'll get you something to eat. She turned and headed to the counter, her heart racing. She pulled out her few dollars. All she had left. It meant no dinner for her tonight. But she didn't care. One meal could make a difference. Even just for now. She waved at Emma. A cheeseburger, fries, and hot tea, please. Emma stared, one eyebrow raised. With your money? Sophie nodded firmly. Yeah, just do it, okay? Emma sighed, rolled her eyes, and called the order back. Sophie returned to the booth and sat across from him. He stared at the table, his fingers twisting nervously. She slid a glass of water toward him. Here, drink this. He looked at her, hesitant, then reached for it. His hands shook as he took a slow, careful sip. Sophie watched, a warm feeling spreading inside her. She didn't know him, but she felt connected somehow. She had no clue this choice would change everything. The diner's noise hummed on, but tension crept in. Emma leaned over the counter, shaking her head. Sophie, seriously? Her voice was sharp, meant for everyone to hear. What are you doing? Sophie met her eyes calmly. I'm helping someone. Emma laughed, crossing her arms. Helping? For what? A few waitresses nearby paused, glancing over. Jake, a cook, spoke up from the grill. Sophie, you're too kind. He flipped a patty, shrugging. But think about it. He lowered his voice. Feed him today. He's back tomorrow. A woman at a nearby table wrinkled her nose. She whispered to her friend. This isn't a charity. Her friend nodded. I came to eat, not watch this. Sophie heard them but kept her focus on the man. He sipped his water, ignoring the growing stares. Emma stepped closer, her voice louder now. You're broke, Sophie. She smirked. And you're buying him food? Why? Sophie stayed steady. It's not about me. Her words were quiet but firm. It's about what's right. Emma scoffed, sharp and mocking. What's right? She turned to Jake. She thinks she's a hero. More customers looked over, some nodding, some frowning. Mrs. Clara stood by the register, watching silently. Sophie ignored the whispers, her eyes on the man. She spoke softly to him. Food's coming. Don't worry. Someone else was watching, unnoticed in the background. His name was Henry, the owner of the Bright Lantern. He stood near the kitchen door, quiet, taking it all in. His face was calm, but his eyes held deep thought. What he was about to do would stun everyone. The murmurs grew louder, but Sophie didn't waver. She saw the man's tired eyes, his quiet pain. She knew she'd done the right thing. No matter what. She sat back down, her voice gentle. Just relax, okay? He looked at her, his gaze softening slightly. Sophie smiled. Certain kindness was never wasted. She believed everyone deserved a moment of care. The food arrived, a juicy cheeseburger, crispy fries, steaming tea. The man stared at the plate, like it wasn't real. He picked up a fry, his hand trembling but eager. He took a bite, his eyes closing for a moment. He ate faster then, like he feared it might vanish. Sophie watched, letting him enjoy every second. She didn't rush him or ask him to explain. After a while, she said, "Want anything else?" He paused, his voice rough. "Thank you, miss." The words were faint, but heavy with feeling. Sophie leaned closer, smiling. "No big deal, sir." She stayed there, letting him eat in peace. To her, it was just a meal, a small gesture. To him, it was everything: a warm seat, a kind face. The diner's chatter swirled, but Sophie tuned it out. She focused on him, on this simple moment. Emma marched over, her face tight with irritation. She didn't care who heard her now. "Sophie, stop this." Her voice cut through the noise. "You're messing everything up." She pointed at the man. "He doesn't belong here." Customers froze, their eyes locked on the booth. Some nodded in agreement, others looked uneasy. Sophie set her glass down, her gaze steady. She faced Emma. Kindness doesn't choose who's worthy. Her voice was calm but sharp, silencing the room. Emma blinked, caught off guard, then laughed coldly. "Kindness?" she mocked. "You're just naive." She turned to the crowd. "She's throwing her money away." A man in a jacket spoke up. "This place is for paying customers." His wife added, "Get him out so we can eat in peace." Sophie stood, her eyes fierce but controlled. She looked at Emma. "I'm not trying to prove anything." Her words rang clear. "I'm just helping someone." The room went quiet, her sincerity sinking in. Emma hesitated, her smirk fading a bit. Henry stepped forward, his presence calm but strong. Everyone turned, surprised to see him speak. He cleared his throat, and the diner fell silent. "Sophie," he said, his voice warm but steady. He looked at the man, then back at her. "This man's name is Mr. Walter," he said. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Curiosity rising. Sophie's heart raced, her eyes on Mr. Walter. Henry continued, "He's no stranger to this place." He paused, letting the words settle. "He built this diner." Gasps echoed, shock spreading like wildfire. Sophie stared at Mr. Walter, her mind spinning. Mr. Walter kept his head down, gripping his tea. Henry raised a hand, quieting the whispers. "Mr. Walter started the Bright Lantern 30 years ago." His voice was clear. It was his passion, his big dream. He looked at Mr. Walter with respect. "He was the heart of this place." Henry went on, his tone growing softer. "But life wasn't kind." He paused, his eyes tinged with sadness. "Mr. Walter had a small family." He spoke slowly. "A loving wife, a daughter he adored." The crowd listened, their judgment fading. Henry continued, "Then tragedy struck." He sighed. "His wife got sick, real sick. No cure." Sophie's throat tightened, her eyes stinging. Henry said, "Mr. Walter sold everything to pay the hospital bills." He shook his head, "But she passed away, leaving him and his girl." The diner was silent, the weight of it sinking in. Henry went on. "He tried to keep going for his daughter." He looked at Mr. Walter. "But the grief was too much," he said. He started slipping, losing his way. Henry's voice was low. The diner hit hard times. Debts piled up. He sighed. Mr. Walter lost the business. Then his home. The crowd exchanged looks, their frowns gone. Henry added, "His daughter was taken in by relatives." He said softly, but Mr. Walter couldn't face it. He felt he'd failed. He shook his head, so he left, wandering from place to place. Sophie listened, her heart aching for Mr. Walter's story. Henry continued, "He slept on streets, ate what people gave him." He said, "Winters were brutal, with just that torn coat." He looked around. "He was once like us, full of dreams." Henry paused, but life took everything from him. He smiled faintly. "Until tonight, when he came back here." He turned to Sophie. "And you, Sophie," opened the door for him. Her cheeks warmed, but she held his gaze. Henry faced the crowd. "This diner's more than food." His voice grew firm. "It's about people, about heart." He pointed at Sophie. "She showed us that tonight." Emma stood still, her face softer, uncertain now. Customers nodded, some clapping quietly. Mr. Walter lifted his head, his eyes wet but steady. He looked at Sophie, his voice a whisper. "Thank you so much." She smiled, tears rolling down. "Anytime, Mr. Walter." Henry clapped loudly. "Tonight's on the house." The crowd cheered, the mood lifting instantly. He leaned toward Sophie. "You got a big heart." She laughed softly. "I just did what felt right." The diner buzzed with new energy, warm and alive. Mr. Walter ate slowly now. His shoulders relaxed. Sophie sat with him, sharing small, quiet smiles. Emma lingered nearby, her expression kinder. She mumbled, "Maybe you're not so bad." Sophie grinned. "You're pretty okay too, Emma." The night rolled on, filled with stories and laughter. Sophie felt lighter, like she'd found something real. She'd helped one person, and that was enough. But deep down, she knew this was just the start. Mr. Walter's story, and hers, would live on here. The Bright Lantern wasn't just a diner anymore. It was a home for anyone who walked through its doors.